This time I hear wake up and step outside, now. As I slowly open my eyes, blurry and they begin to adjust. I see a handgun inches from my nose. What's the worst thing to wake up to? I was babysitting my niece one time when she was about 4. I packed her off to bed and went to watch a movie on the couch, where I promptly dozed off. Only to be woken a few hours later in complete darkness, having no idea where I was, and with a tiny, clammy little demon hand grabbing at my ankle. I've never been awake faster in my life, only to be greeted by a very confused child who just wanted a story and who no one had seen fit to tell me could get over the baby gate like a goddamn ninja. We don't tell her mother about the time Aunt Hazel almost kicked her darling daughter through a window. Had this happen once when I was in middle school. It wasn't burning down completely, but the bathroom caught fire from a malfunctioning bathroom fan. Had to scramble out of bed and grab the super stubborn dog and jeetfo. It was definitely freaky. I believe it was around 6 AM when it caught fire. In case anyone's wondering how the bathroom can catch fire, we were living in a rental house with a poorly maintained bathroom fan. My dad must have been showering when it caught fire. Thankfully the fire department arrived really fast and contained it before the whole house went up in flames. I woke up to find my dog had diarrhea everywhere. Large puddle on the floor and also in between the side of my bed and the wall. It was completely inside the outlet. I literally had to shut off the electricity and rewire a new outlet that day. A few years ago I was awoken at probably 5 AM. The sun was just starting to appear, by the most rancid stench I have ever experienced. It was so rank that it woke me out of a sound sleep. I am unwakeable. I will silence alarms in my sleep. I have slept through hurricanes. But this stench slapped me in the face so hard that I was up and ready to fight it at the first grasp of consciousness my body had. At first I thought it was some serious ass dog poop. But my bedroom door was still shut and it would be super weird since my dog doesn't have a history of pooping in the house. So I go on a manhunt for the source of this god-awful aroma and I absolutely cannot figure it out. Nothing on the floor, under the bed, on the bed, in the closet, in any piece of furniture etc. I open the window, partially to let in some fresh air and partially to see if it's coming from outside. Then I walk by my python's enclosure one more time and realize that it is the epicenter of this horrific nightmare fume. I couldn't see much through the barely sunlit room, so I flipped the light switch on to see the side of her enclosure covered in a dried, crusty liquid and some bits of unidentifiable chunks. Absolutely disgusted, I have no choice but to get closer and inspect this hazmat crime scene to find out what the duck happened and see if she was still okay. She was fine, but coiled up at the opposite end of her enclosure with her head poking up at me, pleading, begging, please, please human, kill me. She had escaped the day before and had been fed the day before that. If you don't know much about caring for snakes, you have to let them rest and digest about 72 hours after eating, otherwise they can and most likely will vomit. Do you know what snake vomit looks like? It's just a whole animal with the head half partially dissolved in acid depending on how long it was inside the snake. In this case, I looked over and saw a rat's ass from the hip bones down, organs spilled everywhere and goo covering every inch of the enclosure on that side. She had decided to puke the rat's ass directly onto her heat rock, where some of it had been deflected everywhere and the rest had been actively baking while I'd been sleeping. The sight coupled with the scent made me lose it. I vomited all over the floor. I go and grab some cleaning supplies, toss her into a bin and soak a t-shirt in perfume to tie around my mouth and nose while I attack this revolting puke-pocalypse. As I've got my head in her enclosure, straining to hold my breath and trying to squint as much as possible so I don't have to see it as much, I turn to throw another wad of dirty paper towels into the bag I had opened up on the floor behind me to see my dog snacking on them. I vomited again. Overall, it took me an hour to get the enclosure clean. I had to give her a half-hour soak but babysit her while trying not to fall asleep so she didn't try to submerge her head in dawn. I had to brush my dog's teeth and the smell didn't leave my room for a week. Even with my windows open, 3 wallflowers and fans going 24/7. When I was 18, I would regularly visit my sister who lives about 2 hours away. I would usually stay for the weekend, babysit my infant niece, and they could have a chance to go out. This particular time, I dozed off on the couch. I woke up in a blur around midnight and realized I didn't have the baby monitor. I went upstairs and saw the baby's door was open. I tiptoe in and the crib is empty. I panicked, ran around yelling, checking all the rooms and doors, all still locked. I find my phone and there's a text from my sister. Dog meds are in the window by the sink. 1/2 pill AM. I finally remembered I had come that weekend to take care of their dog while they, baby included, went to Ohio. I've never been so relieved in my entire life. I once woke up to my parents having sex. I was at the age where you should kind of be waking yourself up, but you are also young. I was like 9 to 10 at the time, I think, and I went downstairs to my parents' room to ask why they didn't wake me up. I go downstairs and into the hallway where their room is. As I walk down the hall I hear a weird noise, and when I am about 4 meters away I hear my mom moaning and whimpering like she is trying to be quiet but also is very into it. I was mortified and I just sat in my bed for a couple minutes just wondering why I had to witness that. After that my parents yelled at me for not being ready for the buzz. A gun pointed inches away from your face. Story time. When I was around 21 I had a night of binge drinking with my roommate and we drank until 6 or 7 in the morning. The house next to us being upset about us being up all night called the cops on us around 7 to say they heard gunfire. Now we weren't blasting the music too loud because when I went into the backyard throughout the night to let the dogs pee or go join them for a pee in the yard, what do you expect? I was drunk. The music was not notable more than a foot away from the house. A few times my roommate went out back to smoke a cigarette and I joined him to continue our conversation while he smoked, and the music wasn't audible then either. Anyway, I finally got the great idea. I wanted to wash my car, so I slowly drove it down the driveway which led to the side of the house. Opened the gate to the backyard so I could use the hose in the backyard. This seemed easier to me than finding a hose out the garage and connecting it to a spigot in the front of the house and maybe waking up the neighbors by washing my car at 7 in the morning. Went inside to grab a bucket, soap, and sat down for another beer and passed out on the couch. Next thing I know I feel my roommate tapping me on the nose. I'm in that half state of drunk and asleep and can't be bothered, so tell him to duck off, cause I'm sleepy. Again I get tapped on the nose and shaken a little, being told to wake up. Again I say duck off, let me sleep. This time I hear wake up and step outside, now. As I slowly open my eyes, blurry, and they begin to adjust. I see a handgun inches from my nose. Everything else is still blurry as the handgun comes to focus. I think, WTF. Why is my roommate pointing a gun at me? As I focused more I saw past the gun, and noticed a uniform, and a badge came into focus. Again now I hear wake the duck up and get the duck outside. It was this cop who was trying to wake me as my roommate was sitting in our backyard handcuffed and 8 policemen were in my house, all drawn guns. I slowly get up and say okay as they roughly take me to the back, and handcuffed me as well and sit me on the concrete in the backyard. They continue to clear the house. Dogs wandering the backyard staying near me. And all the cops around us outside kept asking where are the guns? My roommate did have a gun cabinet with a few shotguns and rifles, so he tells them, in his room he had a cabinet. The cops then kept yelling about the handgun. Where is the handgun? We didn't have one. Now mind you I'm drunk, half asleep, and still confused, so I'm asking how they get in the house, why are they here? I'm told to sit still and keep quiet. Once the house was cleared and they checked us for guns, I asked them if I could put my dogs inside so they wouldn't run out the backyard because they had our side gate wide open. They were nice enough to let me tell the dogs to go to the other side of the yard where I had kennels for them, and then locked them in there. And started asking us about the handguns again. Saying a neighbor report hearing lots of gunfire, probably from a handgun coming from our house. I said no, we've been drinking but no handguns here. They kept up the questions asking why I had my car in the backyard. If I wasn't trying to hide something, why's the car in the backyard? I say I was going to wash it. Which they looked at me like, why not just wash it in the front like normal people? You're trying to hide something. Where are the keys to the car so we can search it? At this point I just wanted them out and knew I had no guns in the car, so I told them. They check the car, the rest of the house again gets tossed around, but no handguns. Just the guns in the cabinet which were unloaded. They break out some powder to put on the guns to see if any had been fired recently. They hadn't. So they give us a warning about firing weapons in a residential neighborhood, to which I say, are they sure it was us? May have been another house. They say no chance. Your next door neighbor here said he clearly heard it coming from this house. Okay, but we don't have handguns. Only rifles and shotguns which make completely different sounds, and none have been fired in a while. They finally leave, and in the drunk state I have to clean up the house they turned and tossed around. Asked my roommate what happened? If he had shot any of them while I was passed out? He said, once I passed out he got on the kitchen phone to call for pizza delivery and kept getting pissed none were open yet when he noticed someone walking in our backyard. He opened the door to ask who the hell was in our backyard and was greeted by the SWAT team that promptly slammed him on the ground and began to run through the house. And that's when I was woken up by one of them with his gun pointed inches away from my face. Like and subscribe for more r/ask Reddit videos.